Matt Spanton, everybody. We're talking about the storm. 1 second. Gotta show the title.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And then play the song. Get the newsy song. This is real
Yeah,
news.
this
This is
is the real deal, right?
not that fake news. We're talking about the storm. Um Lots of damage. Talk to me about where it hit, Matt, real quick to start this off. Where did this sucker hit? And as I play some clips.
Yeah, it looks to have come kind of right into what I call kind of that kind of armpit of Florida, right? No pun intended about the area. It's just like kind of right where that kind of hooks up and goes across. Didn't quite take a direct hit into the panhandle. Up in like Steenhatchee, Cedar Key, Palmetto. So, I'm familiar with this area. I actually have family over that way. We had some of the folks that worked for us up in Atlanta actually had a home. They lost it completely down in Steenhatchee. So pretty solid storm that hit. It hit, in more of a rural area, but still dense enough to where we're going to feel it. It's a kind of a fun area over there to go vacation and to do some things. Not your typical, beach towns, and you're when you really think of Florida, it's kind of up in that northwest side, but it took a serious impact.
Okay, so if we got some of these less densely populated that got hit, like I'm thinking, let's see, we got, what are the less densely Perry, Florida, for instance, only a population of 7,000.
Yeah, you'll be up like Newberry and Perry, and probably up some through Trenton, and kind of all that area up. See, like I said, Cedar Key, where it hit down there. Steenhatchee is kind of like it's kind of a little kind of local vacation spot, if that makes sense. People from within a couple hours away keep little vacation spots there. Really good fishing there, really good scalloping there, some good gator hunting there.
And then Tallahassee has a higher population, but less severe impact, it sounds like.
Yeah, that it came up all the way through Tallahassee and then up into Georgia. What they say is the kind of more north you go in Florida, the more southern it is, right? So like I said, it's not your typical Fort Myers Beach, Naples, Miami, so it's a different feel there. It's a different home size. It's a different demographic all around, to work as far as that.
Is it smaller homes?
It's smaller homes. There's going to be a lot more rural feel. You're not going to have the very densely populated neighborhoods of the master plans where you could, jump from roof to roof to roof, right?
Yeah.
A lot of older homes, a lot of older homes, a lot of trees. You're going to have a lot of tree destruction, things down on top of homes and properties in that way. Yeah.
Because all through, like into the Carolinas, and like there's some death. I mean, so let's talk about that for a second. I guess there's 44 people, Florida towns, see the most fatalities.
Like 17 in the Carolinas, I think, is what I heard, and I've seen numbers all the way up as to total up into like 50.
Okay.
Yeah, the surge was intense, right? Everybody's probably seen the videos of some of the surge, all the way down in Tampa. Massive surge. Tampa's a really low part of Florida. Florida itself, right, is underwater regardless. But you get any type of surge with the tides, it was pretty devastating that way. So you're gonna have a ton of remediation, water mid, all that going on. The winds weren't that intense down that way. And so the heaviest winds that actually impacted were going to be up in kind of that panhandle, kind of armpit area of Florida, right? The thing to remember with that, right, is in Florida here, there's been some major changes since Hurricane Irma. You continue to have really high deductibles. The insurance companies that are here in Florida now. I can tell you this as a Floridian, right? I live in Florida. I live over on the northeast side in Ponte Vedra Beach. The deductibles are high. They're going to be 2 all the way to 10%. Typically, you'll see 2 to 5% of the home's value. So when you have the roofing still costs the same though, right? It costs me as much to roof a house over in the Panhandle as it does over here in Ponte Vedra. But the home values are less. And so you have a $500,000 house, say you have a deductible that could be anywhere from $10,000 to $25,000. And that roof at, a 30 square roof that might be 25 grand, right? Which sounds great. If you had $800 a square, it sounds really good. We have to put on a primary water barrier here. We have to do a whole lot more of these roofs with two-part inspections. And also, the cost of labor is really high down here. So you're going to have a roof that's going to be 25 to 30 grand, and the deductible wipes out a lot of that right away, right? So it turns into more of a bid process than it does an insurance claim for a lot of the guys who are looking to kind of chase the storm for roofs. If you're looking to go to Florida now, Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, all that stuff, different ballgame. Deductibles are $500, $1,000. And
yeah, I was about to say, I feel like every once in a while I get that Matt Spanton discouraged from coming to the state. Don't come here, okay?
I won't be working. So personally, I won't be working Florida. Yeah. So not residential wise, I've had some contact from some of the people that I've worked with, the property management companies, my COAs, and the people that I have, that have had in the pipeline a long time. They're assessing their buildings. I might be doing some resorts and things like that, depending on what it was. I have no clue what that'll be yet. But as far as the traditional work that we've always done, right, we'll be focused our efforts in Georgia and the Carolinas and some Tennessee, a little hair in Alabama, but yeah, mostly there.
The real question I'm curious about is roofing good? Then I mean, like, with all respect to the other tragedies, is roofing going to be good down there right now? What's going on? Tell me really where we're at.
So like I said, personally, I wouldn't rush into Florida. Florida's got its own stuff anyways, even if it would have hit one of the really good areas, right? It's got its own challenges. We have seen an influx in Georgia and our Tennessee offices. So we have at RafterX, we have brands all over the country, but we have a lot of brands in the Southeast. So we have Regal Roofing, Humboldt Roofing, and Perimeter Roofing all in the Southeast. And between those brands, we have multiple offices. And those offices are throughout Georgia, throughout the Carolinas, and up in Tennessee. We have seen a really, really big influx in clients coming in. Guys are out in the streets. We're tarping roofs. We're calling claims. We're getting people buttoned up. We have our arborists out there that work with us, pulling trees off. And so right now, being a couple days out from the storm, we're in full response efforts, taking care of people. And the guys are running fast and running hard, trying to get people taken care of and buttoned up.
I love to hear that. To be honest, I love to hear that for you guys. And to obviously you're joining onto this platform. Talk to me about some of the things you're thinking about right now as far as the response, how you're leading people in this tragic time, in this time where they have to be on their game as roofing salespeople and probably a little bit of roofing repairmen along the way, right?
Yeah, first things first, right? We wanted to check in with all of our staff, right, throughout our brands, just to make sure everybody's okay. Like I said, one of our gals in accounting, she lost her house down in Steenhatchee. They're trying to recover their boat, their family's boat, and so first things first, there's the human side of it for our people too. We had a lot of people that had trees on their homes and we're out of power. We're a family unit, regardless of how big we've gotten. And so that's the first thing, is checking in on everybody, making sure everybody's good. From there out, right, once we're all buttoned up, checking on our families, checking on our communities, making sure that, everybody is safe. And if we can get people power and if we can get people supplies, we're going to do that, of course, right? And then in comes the business. So we've gotten an influx in calls. Between all of our brands, we have approximately about 30,000 prior clients that we've actually re-roofed their homes, just in the Southeast alone. So that's a lot of people who have a roofer on speed dial with us, and we just happen to be on the other end of that call. So the guys are out there, taking care of people. We had staffed up prior. We had about 1,200 rolls of synthetic, custom branded synthetic material set, along with, I think we had about 140 pallets of lath strips prepared and zip tape ready to go out and get people buttoned up. So as far as allocation, we're staffed there. We have a good communication line and contingency plan for the guys to be able to effectively respond. They go out, they're the first line, they address the home, they get the photos, and then they go ahead and put in our logistics plan to get the crews out there to get people buttoned up. So that's where we're at right now.
Do you have room for more people if there's salespeople that wanted to join a team down there right now?
Yeah, we're adding folks to our Greenville office. We're sending guys into Augusta. We have a huge office. We actually, our national headquarters for Rafter and Perimeter Roofing is in Atlanta. So it's only, we got hit in Atlanta too, right? There's work all over Atlanta. So yeah, if there's guys that are looking to maybe have a warmer place to winter and to keep kind of, selling roofs and helping people throughout the winter, we have offices in Knoxville, Nashville, Greenville, Madison, Georgia, Atlanta, Columbus, Georgia. I'm missing one, Raleigh and Charlotte. So we have offices all there. They're all running, they're all rolling. Good brand recognition, great resources, great staff, allocation on the materials, support staff to take care of them, all that stuff. So we're, we were selling all these areas, having a great year before this happened. And so, you never want to say it's a good storm because it's not, because it causes damage, and we want people to, obviously, be safe, but it'll be a big influx in our revenue this year. So that's a plus for our guys.
Absolutely. I have you done any like podcasts or like checked in like with the, not that you need to, but like the industry since you joined this platform? Have you done anything like, cause I don't know, like if you've shared your story about the Rafter X, like joining
lately. So I took the position about 3 months ago. And it's been a whirlwind. So I didn't just, you're taking on multiple companies. I've gone in before and consulted for other companies and had mine that I've built, but I'm taking multiple companies in and their processes. So I've been hyper focused on our processes, improving our company, really getting to know our folks as much as we can. And I nail all those offices out, and that sounds great, but coming in new and just trying to get to know everybody throughout all these locations at once, figure out who's who. They call them project managers here. They call them construction supervisors here. Like, it's been a lot to undertake.
Yeah, but
at that same time, try to really get to know our folks. So I've stayed out of a lot of the
probably good. You probably didn't need to like check in with the industry. The industry is going to do its thing. And it's honestly, like I'm involved because I'm a vendor, but generally you don't need to be like around the water cooler soaking up the industry bullshit. So no, I just checking in with you, and like I'd love it if you'd give like a little update on like the new position and anything else that like you're learning through this process. Obviously, it's private equity, so it's interesting. It's that's interesting to people right now. Many people are thinking about joining up with the platform. Some are already like they've already closed off to that idea. Some maybe private equity wouldn't want them anyways yet. But where are you at with all this? Like, what have you learned from this process at the new company?
Yeah, those are great questions. And there is a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of rumors. I think if I check my email box, at least if I probably opened it right now, there'd probably be a half dozen private equity companies, saying they want to buy, right? Everybody's getting these same emails of these brokers.
Yeah.
Here's what I can tell you from being part of this. I took the position at Rafter not out of any gain for really financially. The position, I saw the way the industry is going. I've been in this industry for 23 years. I sold my first roof 23 years ago. It was a hail claim. That's all I've done. My dad wasn't a roofer. My family, we didn't come from roofing, right? Like this is all I've done. And I've seen the changes in this industry for 23 years. And I've heard time and time again with different things, right? With different shifts, with different rules, with different laws, with different technologies, right? I've heard time and time again, like this is going to change the industry, right? None of it really does. It just supplements it. It adds to it, right? It makes our life a little easier, but it really didn't change the industry. In 2006, we re-roofed 5,000 houses using manila envelopes and magnets across the whiteboard, right? So that's a lot of roofs in one particular area. So the technologies and all the things out there are great. By that was hand measuring. That was before Eagle View. That was all that stuff, right? The private equity interest and alignment that they're joining the roofing industry is absolutely the pivotal point of the insurance restoration industry. And who you're, as a business owner, who you can choose to work with will absolutely be sink or swim. I have people that I know that have joined private equity companies that have absolutely destroyed their businesses. And I have seen private equity companies like the one that we're a part of, especially the one we're a part of, that make you really proud to be part of it. I've had the honor to meet with our board of directors. I have the pleasure to work with on a daily basis, just because our platform headquarters is also headquartered in Atlanta, to work with our C-level folks, right? Our CEO, our CMO, our COO, our CFO. These folks, they give a shit. Like, they are learning this business. They're incredibly bright minds. They listen to what we have to say. I just came off a 3-day meeting down in Chicago, or up in Chicago, I should say, with our presidents from our other brands. We're doing things right. And so there's no if the private equity groups and platforms will take over the insurance restoration industry. They absolutely will. So it's kind of, at this point, what I can tell people is you're either on the train or on the tracks. And with the resources, the staff, and the economy that we have behind us, there's really no better place to be. I was very fortunate to have just kind of come into the seat that I came into, and through introductions and kind of how things worked out with the Rafter brand. I say lucky because I couldn't have picked a better board to work with. I couldn't have picked a better C-level panel to work with. I couldn't have picked better brands to be part of, better counterparts and presidents in our other locations and regions. So we're doing big things. It's not going to slow down. We're making a few more acquisitions this year, it looks like. And I'm really looking to see where Rafter goes. The goal is $1 billion. I think it'll take us probably another 2 to 3 years to get there.
Where are we at?
We're right around 300 million.
All right. Well, that's pretty quick.
That's before the storm. So
yeah. There you go. And you've got some wits. You've got some Bretts. You guys are all over and in the storm path. Okay, so I just kind of want to talk about the private equity thing in a little bit different angle here, if you don't mind. Like, I think there's fear, right? There's some fear from, and people, and fear is motivating, but I would like to guess, and I'll just say it, and you can tell me if you disagree, but there's going to be a lot more rich roofers after all this is said and done. Like, I really believe that some of this is like, what do they say? Stand near a waterfall and you're bound to get wet. If the money is flowing, like, there is going to be a lot more rich roofers. Now, there's also going to be some guys that get hurt from this if they don't like step up or, incorporate, or, like, there's going to be some issues too. So I'm not saying that's not a possibility, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, my take on that is, I mean, there's a lot of truth in what you say. I think that as the PE companies make their acquisitions, they're getting wiser and wiser of who to buy and who not to buy. The roofing industry has an absolute incredible amount of talent in it. It's also got a lot of black staining. It's got a lot of underpinning and negativity, right? It can be both ways. PE came into the roofing world, kind of started gobbling things up fast. They were getting, I think, a little drunk on margins that they don't see in other businesses, right?
Sure.
And in that, and kind of in that inebriation, you saw some people get bought, and then some changes really made fast, or they bought things they didn't know they were getting, right? But they're getting really sharp. And what that means for the roofing companies out there is, if you're a really good company, you should really think about where you want to take your company, because there's going to come a saturation point to where the PE companies start to level up and they start to merge also. That's how roll-ups go. And that's why I said, if you're not on the train, you'll be on the tracks, because there's going to come a point to where the buying will kind of stop at certain levels, right? Sure. Because we're focused not just on acquisitions. What we really need to show is organic growth. So anybody with any amount of money can go out there and buy, 100 companies for $100 million, right? But that doesn't. Oh, did I lose you?
No, I'm just letting you take over since you're.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that doesn't make you $1 billion company, right? So the goal with these platforms is to buy really solid businesses that match our vision, our values, that have good processes, and that aren't looking necessarily for a payday, but they're looking to level up, right? So if we go buy a company and all that owner wants to do is exit and take his cash, it doesn't leave us with a good solid footing to continue to build on, right? We're wanting to get footprints into these other areas, but we want to do it with people. We don't want to come in and just take over and bulldoze and rebuild, right? We want to supplement and add to and build better processes and bring all the strategies that and best practices that have made us successful so far. So if you're a good company, if you're a solid company, and you're looking to join a PE company, be very mindful of who you're going to work with. Because just like anything in business, right? They're all not going to be good, right? And just because somebody will give you $10 million doesn't mean that you should do it. If you can get $10 million from one, you can get as much or more from someone else. Your goal should be, if you're a young guy and you want to stay in business, or a young entrepreneur and you want to stay in business, and you care about the people and you want to still exit at some point, but if you care about your people, you have to make sure that who you sell to is going to maintain that business the way that you cared about it as well, right? And so my company, I haven't sold my company, and I look at all of our brands though that I sit over, and I see those companies as my own, right? I treat them the same. I treat the people the same way I did with my own company. I care about them in the same way. I'm still getting, like I said, it's a lot of people. It's hundreds of people. I'm still trying to get to know everybody at this point. But that's the type of care and consideration you want to have with people that you end up partnering up with, if you're looking at joining a PE group, right? So that's what I would recommend to anybody out there who's getting in that spot.
Absolutely. And I'm looking over at these. I'm into the HVAC world now because I didn't want to have too many clients overlapping, and I wanted to try to. So that's what I'm up to, and they've been doing this for 15 years or whatever with the roll up, and It's pretty cool. Like chatting with the guy who's kind of at the head of, and there's like 50 guys at the head of these companies now, but like of a $800 million company yesterday. And just the level of sophistication, but it's still the same principle. Like there's so many principles of leadership that apply if you're a $50 million company that apply to a $800 million company, apparently. And it's also like in general, I think it's been there's people that will say it hasn't been in HVAC a great thing, like whatever, like it's driven up prices. It's driven up sophistication. It's driven up probably bureaucracy. There's certainly some things that will be different in roofing, and what they're telling me from watching all that, because I'm talking to a lot of these HVAC people and these people that have been through it. Most of the ones over 50 have been acquired, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then they're saying, hey, this has been a good thing for the most part. Most of the people that have been, there's a lot of people on the outskirts that haven't been. They're like, private equity is ruining this. And I think they're talking about like driving up the cost for homeowners, which is on average, it may a little bit drive up the cost for homeowners, because it was going to go up anyways. It was going, like they had predicted from 2022 to 2028 that home improvement in general would go up 48%. Like prices are going to increase, and prices are going to increase more when private equity is there, probably.
Yeah. So we'll see what it does to the industry as far as pricing goes. I have a little different take on that, but it's also up for debate. Like I don't have any inside track, right?
No, absolutely. And I think it's more like long term. It doesn't have they also said, from what I can tell from the HVAC private equity people that I've been talking to, it feels like it's going much quicker in roofing. So it's like 3 years instead of 10. So the HVAC took a longer time. Feels like they're more motivated and they realize it worked. Because there is a company that there's an offer on the table that even in this current environment where HVAC multiples have gone down is a 15x this year. So a 15x multiple, pretty crazy.
There, yeah, that's half a software, which is crazy. Yeah. With the private equity, right? There's for a company to join to say like, well, what's the point? Like, why join it? Why do it? Like, of course, the cash payout for a lot of the owners makes sense, but most of the owners, I would say, in the industry, regardless of the fancy cars and fast living and things like that, the guys kind of are known for in this industry, right? I would say overall arching, they're good people, and they have family morals and values and that. And so they care about the people that work for them, right? And that's the same as us at Rafter. What it does for the companies that get acquired is it gives them world-class leadership. It gives them vision that we otherwise wouldn't have seen. These guys are big business people, right? And they've seen how to plan in ways in which might even be out of scope for us to even think, right? It gives us the legitimacy to work in line with TPAs and insurance companies and to be industry partners with these people that were previously known as advocates.
Adversaries? You mean adversaries?
Adversaries. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I wanted to kind of tie it back to the storm here. So let's talk through is that relationship let's say somebody's watching this in a few years, because we're talking about storms. Maybe they'll watch this back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about an evergreen idea of this changing relationship with insurance as it stands, and private equity it feels like in auto and in healthcare, what previously may have been more tension, generally there's a little bit more integration once it gets more sophisticated. So whereas we like to fight with the on the smaller side, we like to fight with the insurance companies. Now we figure out how to leverage them, or they leverage us. Either way, but how do you think that will change in the next few years as these storms happen and insurance companies don't want to go out of business?
So storms will continue to happen, and roofing companies will continue to need to do the roofs. Where the adversarial nature has and wedge has been driven between the two has been by a cast of bad characters on both sides. Okay, you will not be able to find any post, video, or otherwise comment by me ever in 23 years discrediting insurance companies or demeaning them in any way. Number one, they pay the bills, so period. Number two, I respect the fact I can at least look at our industry as a whole and say, hey, we've driven some of our own issues. right? Now, that doesn't mean that carriers are all good, and it doesn't mean that roofers are all bad, like not at all. But what I'm saying is we're getting to a level now to where we are a corporate entity, and we will continue to grow, and we will have resources that local mom and pops roofers and even quote unquote national roofing companies never had before. We have relationships that are built with these carriers and people within these carriers from previous, industries, and they're starting to mesh, right? So you have this corporate roofing, you have corporate insurance, and undoubtedly at some point those two are going to come together and say, hey, how can you make more money and how can we save more money? We can do it at the same time. There can be two truths here. So just because one roofing company, right, makes more money doesn't mean that the carrier spends more. And so there will come a point I would guess, from my time in this industry, I would guess probably the next 3 to 5 years, where you will see a more carrier contractor approach together, arm in arm, instead of fist to fist. And at Rafter, we support that possibility, and we look forward to being on the front lines of making that work.
You will find many posts of me discouraging insurance, but I make memes, you know what I mean? Like, and that's what the people want. That's what
yeah. Hey, listen, the truth is that there has been many bad actors on both sides. So just like you can make posts and memes about insurance adjusters and you get one bad actor, a couple of them, but listen, the industry as a whole on carriers has been to deny and delay and defend claims. Like, that is out there. We know that. And there are bad adjusters. I won't say they're bad people. The practices that they have adopted or that have been passed to them, like, do not benefit the homeowner. That's out there. That's real. There's also real contractors that cause claims that are BS, right? And so if we have contractors that are doing, going out and flipping tabs, and the guy in Indianapolis years ago that got in trouble for quartering roofs or putting coins on roofs. You have these massive stings and busts going all over. You have all those bad actors, and those guys drive claims that shouldn't be called in, and claims that cause these carriers to look at their bottom line and find reasons as to why they're going to tighten things up and tighten their wallet up, right? But then on the flip side, you have adjusters that, because of those practices that they've been caused to tighten up, and their QC is so tight they won't buy anything that doesn't have 30 hits or more in a square. Then you have legitimate claims that aren't getting paid. And so this vicious cycle has continued, right? So this is just me speaking. This isn't coming or sponsored by the company or anything, but I am a firm believer that if we can build a process that has integrity built in, and we can consistently get that process across our platform, and we can scale that, and we can measure that and do that at a rate to where we can benefit the carriers and the clients, I think that we can not just serve our own self-interest with our margin and our revenue, or the interests of the carrier with their margin and revenue, but the client is sitting in the middle going, hey, come on, just take care of me. And that's the end result. And that's who we're focused on fixing and taking care of at Rafter.
Absolutely. Can you give me a few more, just to put a bookend on this, a few more tips on, like, as tactical as you can get? If somebody is, let's say they're not rushing in all the way from Minnesota or something like that to try to do storm work in the South, but let's say they've been in those areas and they're kind of mobilizing the troops. Any tips or anecdotes from your many, many years of experience of, like, leading people in these types of disaster situations?
Yeah, first things first, make sure that you're well situated for your resources, right? So make sure that you don't, go out and overpromise and underdeliver. Make sure that you have the materials to take care of people. If you say you're gonna be there to provide, emergency mitigation services, make sure that you have those people resourced and staffed, right? We've seen time and time again, guys have gone out and kind of signed agreements up, right? And then homeowners are waiting for them to show up, and nobody comes for weeks on end, and their roofs are left open. So first things first, make sure you're allocated, Make sure you have the staff that can take care of people. If you're a company owner, it's going to cost you probably 3-4 times more than what you think. So make sure that your money is set and your money is right to be able to handle this type of work. And then, last thing, just put the customers first, right? If we put the customers first and we take care of them first, everything else will fall into play. Take the extra time to clean the debris out of the gutters for them. Take the extra time to help the lady, bring the trash can that blew all the way across her yard back, up to the drive. Put the human side of it, first as well. So you're always going to need more material than you think. You're going to need more money than you plan. And your days are going to go long and hard. So just don't forget about who comes first on those days, right? Which is our family at home and our clients that we're serving.
Can you give me just like a peek inside as a guy who's never been part of one of these things? Is there like, you guys have like, a lot of times you'll get like Airbnbs or like a house, you rent a house with a bunch of dudes in it. Is that how it goes? Like, is that what the culture, like, how is the culture when in this moment? What does it feel like?
Yeah. So this is a little different for us right now, right? Because we are fixed in all these places and we were there, right? So we're taking trees off of our own houses right now, and then we're going to help our neighbors. So it's a little different than like the typical kind of parachute in, and give some response efforts. If I were still in Illinois and I wasn't in the Southeast and I was not, in Florida and used to this stuff, I would be packing up my guys. I would have all my diesel generators. I'd have the trailers full of all the synthetic and everything I needed. And we'd be, my executive assistant would be on the phone trying to find VRBOs or hotels or whatnot. Fuel is always going to be a shortage, and it's always going to be an exceptional shortage if there's no electricity, right? So it'll couple. If there's no electricity, it's going to be double as bad, right? So places to live, filling up the vehicles, and even food can be a pain in the ass at times, right? Because restaurants are shut down, grocery stores, the stuff went bad after a few days, right? Unless they had gotten big generators in. So make sure that it's kind of like going camping for a couple weeks, right? And I say that with a little bit of gist in my voice. However, I've also bought 4, 5, 6, 50-foot fifth wheel trailers and shipped them in so my guys had places to live because there was nowhere to live, right? That's fun for a little while. It sounds fun, like living.
Sounds fun for about 2 weeks tops.
That's about it. That's about all you got before you're stir crazy. And even though the fifth wheel has a washer and dryer, it's like, yeah, but I can only fit about 2 pairs of underwear, 3 socks, and a t-shirt in there, right? Like that's all it's going to wash. So listen, storm chasing was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it. For the guys that are out there doing it, have fun with it, because I did it at a time of my life with some of my best friends. We made some really good money. We got some crazy stories. Someday maybe I'll write a book about all of them, right? But enjoy that time. It can be a really good time. But also, just remember, have your ducks in a row, being planned out and being prepared. That was one thing that we did really well. We targeted right where we were going. We didn't go out and kind of, shoot the moon and go everywhere. We targeted right where we were going. We got settled in and we went to work. My guys were all packed. They were ready. They had everything that they needed, and they knew they were going into work, right? We weren't going out to vacation at a storm, right? This was to go work, take care of business, and do our thing. So
is there any like tone things? Like if, let's say, even somebody's joining your company right now, that maybe hasn't worked a storm like this, as you're knocking on doors, as you're talking to homeowners, what do you guys like? And we could keep this somewhat brief. I know that we're not giving a sales seminar here, but like tone wise or like things you guys make sure to keep in mind. It's not like you don't want to go in like a hard charging sales thing. You want to go in like we're helping out, or what is the way to approach that without looking at
Yeah, absolutely. Right. The first things first is these people are going to need your help. Right. So we don't have to be predatory in nature. Right. We can show up, we can introduce ourselves. If you've seen anything or you notice anything on the roof, offer to help them, perform whatever emergency mitigation service that your company is set up to do. And if the state allows it legal wise, help them walk them through the claim. The claim process can be very frustrating. It's very, very important that we remind these folks that we have to document this claim process, right? So a lot of people don't think of that right away. Before we start tearing things off trees or trees off fences and off the house and start moving things around, like photograph everything, right? And so just remind those folks, hey, before we get started with anything, or before you get started with anything, if you're right on the front line of the storm passing through, document everything. So there's no questions, right? And everybody's got a video camera on their cell phone now, and you know, we can snap 1080 photos at our disposal. So let's document it. Let's get everything looked at first and assessed first, and then go ahead and take care of them, what they need on the home, and then be there to help them through the claim process as far as calling it in and scheduling the adjustment process. A lot of times. Now, Florida, you can't do that. You can be there to answer questions. You can't instigate a claim, right? However, you can be there to help them answer some of the questions if people have a question like, what was wrong with the roof? What needs to be done with the roof? Can it be repaired? Like, those are questions you can do as a roofing salesman and answer. That's not necessarily policy related or claims process, related.
Okay. And homeowners are inundated with these types of, like, there's going to be a lot of people knocking, I would assume. So is there any way to inoculate them against the next guy that's coming? If you actually did get a signature, is there any way to like stop there from being another guy that comes along and says, I'm going to eat this deductible or whatever it is? You know what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah. We have an emergency mitigation agreement that we use to perform, once we perform it services, right, we're in that contract with them. So if they want us to go ahead and perform those services, we perform them, we contract in right then and there, put a yard sign out.
It's not a contingency agreement. It's a contract.
Yeah, it's an agreement. It's not a contingency. It's an actual contract because we perform work, right? So it's not like, hey, if your insurance company comes out and buys your roof, we'll do it for what they provide. Like, that's, everybody's got their take on those. I actually have a whole episode on my school channel about that. But
here's your quick. It's okay if it's spicy. What's your take on it?
Well, I think if I flip this whiteboard around, I'm still on there. My take on contingencies are two things. I'll be short with it. The first thing is, first of all, if it's legal in the state and you can do it, like, if it's not legal, don't do it. Like, there's no reason to get yourself into any shit because you're trying to like push somebody into some agreement, right? Second off is, to me, it's a legal handshake. I think that back in the day, 30, 40, 50 years ago, a handshake meant something to people, right? So if you said like, here's what I can do for you, and if I do this, you give me that, right? And we shook on it, it meant something. I think in today's day, especially even more so now with technology, is that unless you write your name on something, you're not all in. And that doesn't mean that somebody writes their name on something and signs their signature and then they're not going to turn around and backdoor you. I'm not saying that. But I think there is some weight to saying, hey, here's what I'm going to do. And if I do this, you're going to do this. Are we agreed? Yes, sign on it. I think there's a little bit of salesmanship in that, to where the honor and the client is like, hey, I already agreed to go with somebody, right? That's take number one. Take number two is, if they're going to screw you, they're going to screw you anyways. It's like, so I got both sides. I really do. And I have, we have some states where you can do these in, and some guys run them and some guys don't. I always signed contingencies. Now that was back when I was selling. That was a long time ago, right? I signed and it was really for me, for my peace of mind, like, hey, if I'm going all in on you. So back in the day, before I met an adjuster, right, I would inspect the roof. Then they would sign the contingency. Then I would go back on the roof. I would measure the whole roof, right? I would go back to the office. I would prepare an exactimate or an integrity claim estimate, right? I would have all of that prepared, and then they would schedule their adjustment. They'd come on, they'd call me and say, hey, Matt, adjuster's going to come out next Wednesday at 4. So then I would plan to be out there for that adjustment at 4 o'clock. I would show up an hour early. I would mark the roof up. I would have everything prepared. I would have my estimate there ready to go. Right? So I had time into this thing. right? I legitimate, a few hours of time into this person's home. The way I looked at it, I sold a pretty high volume. The way I looked at it is like, if I'm going to put a few hours into you, I want your commitment, and I want us to meet eye to eye, and I want you to put your signature on something saying that you're not going to backdoor me, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. And I was but here's the deal. I was also very, very upfront with what this meant.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if you sign your name here, I'm going to work for you, which means you don't get to call your sister's cousin's brother to come out and give you an estimate and beat me by $1,000. That's over. If you do that, there's legal repercussions there, right? That was my pitch back then. I'm not saying that's the right thing to say or do or whatever, but that's what I was very upfront.
I feel like some people just, there still will be one every once in a while that like backs out or something, right? Like in that, because it's not super enforceable, right? It's not technically super enforceable.
It's pretty unenforceable, actually.
The
reason being is in that contract, you don't actually perform any real work, right? You're not a legal representative. You're not an attorney. You're not a PA. So you can't unless you prescribe it out and you bill it that day, right? Of I'm going to put 3 hours for estimating, right? You can't just say, hey, if I represent you with your insurance company, you're going to pay me X. You can't do that as a contractor, right? But if you go out and you perform emergency services and you have a price for the work that you did, and then you're going to change order in anything additional that comes into that claim, it's different because you actually started the work, right? It doesn't matter that the work didn't start with tearing the first shingle off. The work actually started with mitigating the roof, right? So you started that contract, you performed that work. You have an amount for what that work is going to be, and you should have an expectation of when that work needs to be paid for. Net 30 days, net 180, whatever you want to put on it, it's up to you, right? Totally different conversation.
Well, all these things kind of pertain to getting into the storm and leading a group of people through the storm. There's obviously a lot of different ways to do this, and I think I like storm catchers. I think I wish I would have storm chased at one point. Well, it seems like kind of fun, 2 for 2 weeks. Ultimately I'm rooting for you guys, and I'm rooting for everyone that's helping with this. I think there's some honor. I know that there's a little bit of a greed factor here as there's a lot of roofs affected, and you could make a lot of money here, and there should be money to be made, because you're helping a lot of people. But I think also there's a lot of honor to getting out there and helping people with this and making sure that this gets done. So good luck to everyone out there right now. Good luck to all of you. Hopefully you're not sitting in your truck watching this as a way to pass the time before getting back out to help another homeowner, but I'm sure there's a leader or two that this will help. And thank you very much, Matt, for spending a little bit of time. I know you got a lot of stuff that you got to go do, so I'm sure.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you guys.
Yes. And all right. Appreciate everyone. Have a good one. Good luck.